Beautiful.
All right.
John is all smiles there, huh?
He's just in a warm place. That's what
He's on vacation.
Oh, where is he flying out?
So this is the November meeting of the Dayton Development and Industrial Commission. It's 6:30. We were a little delayed in getting started. But I would like to call the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This meeting will be posted on the town YouTube channel. To join the Zoom meeting, meeting ID is 852-4143-6181. Passcode 732-368. Phone number 929-205-6099. Everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a couple guests here tonight, so I am going to be taking things a little bit out of order. But the first item was to discuss the posting of the Dayton business listings online, and we have the people here tonight, town clerk. First, just for everybody's benefit, I know you explained it to me, but what are the reasons that people come to register their business with the town clerk?
So a DBA it's defined in Mass General Law, and it's very simply, it's for consumer protection and creditor protection. There's certain fields you have to fill out, and the main one being your name and your address. So if that's really the whole purpose of a business certificate, it doesn't go, you can use it for other things with your bank or there's other uses, but as far as like the Mass General Law and the purpose behind it, it's consumer protection.
But you said often people will come to you because they go for a loan or they go for insurance, and it's the first question they ask them, are you registered? And they have to come back to you. And
That's really how we find that they draw us in. They usually say that the bank said that they need it if they want to open a bank account under a certain name, or your mortgage or whatever. You try and take out a business loan, but yeah, that it is. It's a Mass General Law. You're supposed to do it.
but they can also register with the state, particularly if they're like a corporation or LLC. Do you get that information?
No. So that would be, we don't get any of that. So if you're not incorporated, then the DBA is generally what people do. But you're right.
Yeah.
Corporations can do all.
But if they chose to use a post office box, that's also okay, right? They don't have to come to the town.
That's something to do with me as far as PO box or anything.
Right. I did actually go online to the state corporation's website, and you can filter by town, and you can get a list of everybody who's registered for Dayton. That's a corporation that's registered with the state. So it is possible between your office and the state site to get a complete list of all registered businesses. But what we have been talking about in our committee for the past few months was posting the list of registered businesses on a website, on a town website, the way some other towns do. And the main reason being is that a lot of people like to shop locally. It gives, presence to those businesses and encourages people to shop locally. I know in bringing it up with you, one concern you had was that a lot of the times when people register, they just may list their personal cell phone number of contact, not realizing or thinking that we're going to publicize it.
Right.
So you had concerns about, just turning around and sticking it online. So one thought was, maybe we'd have to canvass people to decide if they want to opt in. And if they do opt in, what is the contact information they would like to display? But I was also interested in what you thought about what the logistics and mechanics would be of actually creating this, maintaining it, not putting like a tremendous amount of effort, and work on the back of your office to make, to keep this going. Even if we were to help like getting it up and running by talking to the businesses saying, do you want to opt in? Do you want to update your contact information? How would you see this working going forward?
So So, all right, you got a couple questions. How to do it? It's really easy. We have an access file. You could just request it from me and you could filter it how you want it. It's already all there and
It's like the
File
actual
format.
information, yeah.
so it's not like it has to be transcribed from paper. We do that. Each time someone fills it out, we already put it into the computer. So it'd be really easy to get on the website if you want to make it searchable. Just to back up, when I first started, I redid the whole town clerk section of the website. I put as much information as I could on there. I tried to make everything as basically it minimized calls to my office. I put a lot, and that was one of the things I ran into was, do I want to put the DBAs online? And it was a no for me. I feel you know, there's ways to find the businesses. It just, there's too much. There's people's information, so I didn't want to throw it up there. I feel it's there. If someone needs it, they know how to find it, then come see me. But again, so when I think of it, if we don't want to bother these people too much, they might not want to come back and fill out the DBA. You know, if we keep calling their personal phone numbers and
Oh, right, yeah.
they did the right thing. They filled it out. It's there for protection. It's there if we ever need it. I just don't know how, these are the heads of the businesses, how much we want to reach out to them. That was just my decision, but it's a public document. You guys as a group, you guys could maintain it very easily. You know, if you want to request it quarterly, it would be as simple as throwing it on the website. You know, you could make it a PDF, you could make it Excel, you could keep it Access. I mean, it would be very minimal effort. I'm only one person. That's why I don't see that in my section of the website. If you guys have a industrial and development
The page,
section,
so we could, put a link off of that page.
yeah,
And I'm just thinking something almost like a yellow pages, even if we're possible, categorizing it by plumbers and electricians and landscapers and all that kind of stuff for, and to your point about, bothering the businesses too much. We could just start small, which is those that we know that are particularly retail oriented. Talk to them and start a small listing. The others, if they start to see it and they want to join, we can say, well, here's how you do it. You have to opt in, you have to let us know, is this really the contact information you want up there? That sort of thing. We don't have to necessarily go a big blast and just canvass every business in town saying, do you want to do this? I don't know if other people feel the same way. We could just start listing those people that we think want to be listed after talking to them. And the others will come hopefully, once they see it up and if it's working, driving business to places.
My only concern, what if some of these people don't want to be?
That's fine. Oh, yeah, no, that's why it's opt-in.
So we would have to notify them in advance to see if they want to be on our website.
Yeah, we have to, so nobody gets posted unless they tell us they want to, would be the thing.
All right, that's,
And
Advertising too.
yeah, no, I understand, but some people don't want to be
Right.
advertised,
Sure.
yeah, no, that's fine. And that's their choice. And we wouldn't.
I think we respect that. I mean, I see no reason why we would.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John.
I was just wondering if we would have to modify that form that Mark uses when you fill out the name and address and that sort of thing of the business. Maybe just a question, yes or no. Do you want to be listed in the directory? Yes or no? Would that be something that you could potentially do, Mark? As part of the, DBA type business certification?
I would be willing to do that. Yes.
Okay, okay, great. That would help too. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. They're good for 4 years, so it'd take you 4 years to get everyone, but yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
So you had actually provided Mike a copy back in January. Because it was a lead up to our business expo and we were using that as our guide. So I do have at least a January copy. I'm not sure how much has changed since then. But we can work off of that. And do people generally come in at a certain time each year or it's just throughout the year?
It's throughout the year. We do a renewal letter too, which is over the summer when we get a lot.
Okay.
But other than that, it's whenever it expires. So it's good 4 years from the date that we issued it. So, they're completely staggered 12 months.
So if we were to start doing this now, we would have to talk to Mike about on the town website where exactly this would get listed and what the format is and, you know, and we can manage all of that, hopefully ourselves. And maintain it with just getting additional information from your office.
Mhm.
Would you like be changing your form to ask that question like in the next quarter or
Could you guys send me a line or two of,
what you wanted to say?
yeah, just
Okay.
condense what the business listing is, you know,
Okay.
and I'll put that on there. That's fine.
All right. Do people have any questions for Mark?
Actually,
Thoughts about doing
I
this in
do.
general? Okay,
yeah, in general, specific to the next speaker.
okay.
Mr. Cancelleri, have you been formally introduced to our town clerk,
I don't believe I have been, so it's nice to
Hi,
be.
nice to meet you.
Mark Pacheco, with the K, M-A-R-K, not to be confused with Senator Mark Pacheco with the C. I was just curious to what type of services does the town of Dayton, through the clerk's office, be able to provide for Cooperative Productions? Michael is the CEO of, Cancelleri is the CEO of Cooperative Productions. You mentioned the information regarding that you gather about businesses. Is Cooperative Productions in your link already?
I'm not sure. There's a lot there. I don't know all the businesses.
We can check. I'm not sure either. Once you mentioned it, I'm thinking I should probably go back and check.
So maybe registered at the state level as a
We're
corporation.
we're required to at the state level. So we definitely,
That's all you need.
oh, okay. So we definitely do that.
So
We
if
have to
there-
do that for
Any
secretary.
business in Dayton that's been registered at the state, it automatically comes to you.
No, it doesn't, but you don't need a DBA. If you're registered with the state, you don't need to do the
Would
DBA.
there be an advantage to doing that, engaging, being registered in both locations or both databases, we'll call it?
Personally, I don't think so, because your information's with the Secretary of State's office and they can find you now, if there's a need. So that's really the whole point of the DBA,
Okay.
so I don't see, it would just be another expense for you. I don't see any,
Could you provide that information to the Dayton Industrial Development Commission? We have a web page, and by using that web page, we could promote any business.
Exactly, yeah, that's the, whether it be our page or a link off of it, and we can discuss that with Mike when he might have some ideas about how we would do this. Like I said, I would like it to look almost like you're going to the Dayton Yellow Pages,
I would love that.
If that's straightforward, for people and,
Mike, how many people do you employ?
We have over 350.
wow.
So we're
150.
pretty.
And growing,
What's that?
and growing.
Yeah, I mean, just offhand, we're at 350 and we have a 30% vacancy rate. So I mean, realistically, if I was fully staffed, we'd be a little over 400. And that would be the full, and that doesn't include our relief team, which is our temp group, which is probably another 50 to 60. But we don't include those. Some of those individuals work for us on a pretty regular basis, and then we have some of those individuals literally work 1 or 2 days a month. So it kind of, it's not really truly indicative. It would kind of overinflate the numbers a little bit. But if I was fully staffed, we'd be a little over 400.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So not to tie up Mark, I think, if people have questions for him, I'll get him back like a one-liner. And maybe we can try to target this for like January, February, somewhere in there, and I can get you back a one-liner, and I can talk to Mike in the meantime about how we would physically put this up on the town website, on how we would do it.
Yep.
The lawyer may have some idea about like how we, list things, and that, wants to make sure the town's not inadvertently, promoting somebody that they shouldn't and being neutral. So,
Absolutely.
but I think we're good. Unless anybody has any questions. I appreciate your comments tonight, Mark.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, You too, likewise. Yeah, just to reiterate, what it would access is it would take very little of your time when you do make the list to get it on the website.
okay,
And as soon as you get me that line or two, I will put on the form and I would say just request it from me whenever you want.
Right.
An update and I'll get it over to you.
okay. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I would like to take public input out of order, and use that as an opportunity for, Mike to explain, his being here tonight. So I'll make a motion, somebody to take public input out of order.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, Mike, I know you've talked,
Could we
go ahead, sir.
introduce ourselves
Oh, sure.
to Mike?
I'm
All of us bring, including John, particular
Well, that'd be terrific. I appreciate it.
skills to the table that
Yeah.
can be very beneficial to.
I'm Dan Higgins. I'm chairman of the commission.
I'm Patty Barlow, resident.
Wafa Delphin,
I'm sorry, what was it?
Wafa, RAFA. Delphin, DELFIN. Member.
Joseph Figurito. I bet you want me to spell it.
That would help. FIG.
UEIREDO.
And both Joe and I are on the planning board as well.
Oh, wonderful.
And Jonathan,
Yep. I'm Jonathan, JONATHAN. Last name is Jagat. And that's spelled GEGGATT.
Thank you.
And I'm on this commission representing the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board of directors of the Taunton
Okay.
Area Chamber of Commerce, which covers Dayton, and a former Dayton resident.
Perfect. Well, nice to meet everyone. Thank you. I'm Michael Cancelleri. I'm our the president CEO of Cooperative Productions, literally about half a mile down the street. Just a little brief background on myself. I actually joined Cooperative Production in October of 2021, so just a little over a year. And when I started, one of the things that during my search process and talking to my predecessor, and again, in full disclosure, this was in October when we kind of thought COVID was going to kind of teeter itself out. One of the things I really want to do was really take an opportunity to reintroduce Cooperative Production to the communities that we serve. Specifically Dayton and Taunton, because that's where we have the largest concentration of our programs, both our day programs and residential programs. So for instance, at Cooperative Production, we support adults with medical, developmental, and traumatic brain injury needs. And we do that through day service programs, employment supports, and residential care. Within that, just to kind of give you some numbers, so to speak, 350 employees, we just kind of mentioned currently, glad we have Magic Wand, we'd be a little over 400. We have 33 different sites. In Dayton alone, we have we have the building right down the street where we have our administrative offices and then 2 of our day programs. And then for those of you, I'd say down the street, but we're in with Indraplast, the old Princess House building. And then we have another 5 residences that we own and or lease here in Dayton. And within that's actually 6 programs because one of them is like 2 houses in one. It's kind of it's split. So when I started really taking a look, it took me a while, to kind of get through some of the COVID stuff and then really get a pretty good grasp of who we are as an organization. Reached out to the board of selectmen and then Lenny, who full disclosure also works for Cooperative, and then Nicole Mello, who also is the town nurse, but also is an employee of works at Cooperative Production. One of the things I really want to do and kind of my approach to reaching out to the towns and organizations we serve is I've been in nonprofit work for the past 20 years. And one of the things that always struck me is odd is that a lot of nonprofits will go to the towns they serve, the communities they serve with their handouts saying, what can you do for us? And it always struck me as odd where in any other realm of my life, that's not exactly the kind of person I would want to hang out with. Someone's like saying, what can you do for us? What can you do for us? And so for me, when I joined, took the position at Cooperative Production, I really wanted to approach it from what can we do together? And from a town perspective, again, it is, we employ 350 employees. We have $28 to $30 million in revenue. We have 33 different sites. So from that perspective is what can we do together from a standpoint of how can we be better community partners? What does that mean? Joining the Chamber of Commerce's? Does that mean coming to the towns that we serve and saying, what do you need from us? And that's kind of where Lenny and I started our conversations. It was about one of the big things kind of we're because we're residential, we're always for really reviewing our facility planning. And so for us, facility planning is obviously just our office space that we're renting out, but also the residences that we either rent and or own through our residential programs. And one of the things that we know we want to jump into, and we're hoping to time it once kind of interest rates and kind of housing kind of starts behaving itself a little bit better, is the idea of.
Your jacket? Is that your jacket? Oh. Is that it up there? No.
No,
What's on next to you, Lenny? Is that little square thing? Is that it?
no.
That won't help. It failed in our last meeting. I put it in my pocket and when I get home, it wasn't there.
That's not good.
Would be obvious.
Check your seat.
Not very big,
It's about the
unfortunately.
size of a phone, right? About the size of a regular phone? It's about the size of a regular phone, right?
No, it's really.
Oh, it's a regular hearing. Yeah.
Welcome. If we find it, Charlie, we'll give you a call. If we, okay. Those are expensive.
No worries.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, Lenny and I were talking about, and what we're getting ready to do at Clark Productions, part of our strategic plan, part of it is just hopefully coinciding it with the market, trying to maybe level out from a real estate kind of perspective, is we really want to take a look and reevaluate a lot of our entire property portfolio, we'll call it. From my standpoint, we're kind of having a conversation with our board. I think we rent out too many of our properties versus own. At Clark Productions, we are always going to want to balance because it does give us some flexibility. And what I mean by that is, while we have residences and we have folks obviously joining our program, they come to live in our residences, having the ability to rent out different locations does sometimes help, because one of our goals is we try to be as minimally disruptive to those individuals coming to live in our residence as possible. So if we have the opportunity to have a residence in a town where they're familiar or an area they're more familiar with, then that's something that we consider. It's not always the only factor, but it is something we consider. And one of the conversations we had with Lenny is, one of the things I know is that we rent out I would want to own more of our actual residential programs, number one. And part of that, but even within that model is then we start taking a look at, do we want to buy pre-existing or build? There are advantages to both. One of the things that we find with pre-existing, obviously the move-in and the ramp up time is much quicker. We can get folks in, we can really start supporting them in the communities faster. One of the things we run into is that because of the needs of our the folks that we serve, we're talking about individuals that have wheelchairs, walkers, mobility, communication needs, vision needs. So being able to build from
Codes, all the codes
Yeah.
that you can.
we can build hallways that are larger so that you can get wheelchairs in and out. So for instance, in full disclosure, we have a building now that we are quite literally looking at installing a third exit to the building, because we are under mandates, 2.5 minutes, we have to get everyone out in a fire drill. The way this house is built is at the exit, trying to get 2 or 3 individuals out in wheelchairs. The way the hallways are built, we can't do it. So quite literally, it's one of the options for us is okay, do we build an egress and a ramp for essentially that side of the house? Those are things that are from building a house. I can plan around and say, okay, at every exit area, I need wider open areas around the exit areas. A lot of the houses we build, if we were to do that, we're talking about almost gutting an entire wing of the house, because it's not as simple as saying, I need to expand the foyer area. Usually when you're doing that, you're pushing into other parts of the home. Something as simple as the doorways in and out of every room is bigger. And then don't even get me started on bathrooms. Bathrooms are a huge issue for that. So like I said, that's something that as we move into 2023, that's something that we want to really take a look at. So for residential properties, and then the other part is, again, Interplast is they're great landlords. One of the concerns that I have is that really 3 out of my 5 programs where I have day services are very industrial. We have sites at 97 Ingle Street, which we own, in Taunton, 82 Ingle Street in Taunton, and then right down the street here. The inside of the building's okay. The outside looks like a factory, looks like an old, it's got an industrial feel to it. There's no outside green space for us to use, those kinds of things. If folks want to do anything outside, you got to cross a parking lot. That's not safe for you and I, but certainly folks with executive functioning, cognitive needs, and mobility needs. The last thing we really need to be doing is crossing a parking lot, which can get. We're lucky, really, it's very similar to a school schedule. It only really gets busy in the morning, the afternoon, when folks are coming into work and leaving work, and folks are coming in and out. Most of the time in the middle of the day, minimal traffic, and still not ideal. So those are some things that, from our standpoint of, it's what opportunities are here in the town of Dayton where we can be, it's not just what we can do for us. It's, I need to build a building that can house 100 people, and those kinds of things. So that's where we're able to help the towns. And then really, honestly, the help we need from the towns is, what do you have in your quote unquote inventory? I'm not even looking for easements and those kinds of things. I understand those are a whole different kind of thing. Learning about the process, but honestly, the biggest thing, the first part of things that we're asking is, what's your inventory? What do you have as far as locations for sites to either build, buy, rent? For instance, I just took a look at the site right up on the street. If you take a left out of here, the first light, you take a right, the old nursing home.
Center Street, yeah.
Center Street. We took a look at that. It's just too small. But that was something that somebody in the community had said, hey, there's a developer there who wants to try to do something with it. Might be worth you taking a look at. That's kind of the only ask that we're making now from the towns that we're in.
As a matter of fact, I'm surprised that they're not here because they were supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
I invited them myself to attend this meeting. I don't know what the process was.
Can I ask?
But
Sorry, you didn't finish.
sorry, there is about 3 acres on that property.
Okay.
And my question is, would it be? Do you think there's a chance that you could
So
add to it?
part of the issue that we have in one of our programs, to expand because of the level of need of our individuals, we don't like going up.
Okay,
Because if that's the case, it means I have to get everyone in and out in a lift or an elevator.
Okay.
Which makes it difficult for fire code reasons as far as fire drills. Now, I said that I could theoretically do what we've done at Interplast, where we do our administrative offices. Administrative offices is a little bit easier because, generally speaking, those are individuals who do not have special healthcare needs. So using stairs is not a barrier in the same way it is for many of the folks that we serve. One of the things that we did run into, and it was, I don't want to say that we hired architects, it was really just me doing a walkthrough. Part of the issue that we had was, it actually wasn't the building itself, because a lot of times I'm prepared to we would be prepared to kind of go and gut and expand. What we ran into is that right behind the building is their septic.
so right directly behind the building. Okay.
Yeah, the way the building is, it's kind of an L shape, and the septic the access points are they're a little spread out, but some of them are very close. So
I was told differently.
Yeah.
I was told that the septic was way out in the back. And it was a very large septic.
well, it is, but the problem is because it's a very large septic, there are ports, we call them. Some of them are much closer to the building. They're not right there, but for us to build out enough, we do. And then the other issue then, if I'm including, the other thing that we ran into is, if I now have a building that big, I need parking. And then the parking puts us, and that's the other part that puts us right over the septic. So that was kind of part of the issue that we had. Because again, I like the location. It was super close to our other spot. So even if we said, gradually just move 1 or 2 programs. But for us, really, because the existing parking is very, it's really just that front area. And it's because for us, not only does it mean parking for staff, but I've got to get a way to get vans and buses loop through. And that was the other issue. There just wasn't room to be able to pave that with the. So that was kind of, our needs are a little unique. But again, not. I don't need like a helicopter pad or anything like that. So they're not like crazy unique. Yeah, that'd be great, right? But it is one of the things for us, a lot of times it's really is, I'm sorry.
Just a question, if I may, what is the minimal or optimal size acreage? The square footage that you'd be looking for?
So it's, I almost hate to say that because it's variable. So for instance, best example I can give is at our site right down the street. I have 2-day programs in my administrative offices. Right now, we view them as kind of a bulk deal. Like if I could, I'd love to have a spot where I could move everything, kind of, and only then, because then I'm not paying multiple landlords and things like that. I would not rule out moving one of those programs, and then because at that point, then I'm going to Interplast. I'm saying I don't need the same square footage when I renew the lease. So that's one of the advantages of renting. I can kind of gradually do a shift. So that's really where it's tough, because if I'm looking at just administrative, I can go up. So my square footage can be smaller if I can go up. If I'm looking at 1 or 2 programs, that also changes. The other part where a lot of things are variable is we're really taking a look at one of the things for us is staffing has made program size and growth really hard to project. With the state, we do have required ratios for level of care and providing quality supportive care. So right now, I'm not even sure how much so for instance, if it was a larger site 3-4 years ago, I think a lot of programs like myself, but this is perfect because then we can bank on growing. We don't know until the labor market kind of, settles down. I mean, if this is going to be the new normal where everybody nationwide is going to be at a 25% turnover rate, those are factors we have to do. But the easiest answer is we don't really know. We don't want to do that only because I have 3 different programs that don't necessarily all have to move together. I guess that's the best way to say it, which is.
Just a couple of questions. One is, in terms of not necessarily neighborhood, but the type of area that you're looking at. You mentioned, industrial is not optimal, but are there any other requirements? I mean, if you were in a rather isolated area versus like, the nursing home, which is, it's in a residential area, but it's still, there's facilities.
So for the residential sites, absolutely would want to be in residential. They can be in the middle of the neighborhood. That's fine. And actually being really secluded is less ideal because again, we would want those individuals living in those homes to feel like they're part of a community.
Right.
For our day program sites, really what we would kind of zone commercial, that has a little bit more flexibility. If we're secluded, in my mind, that means, there might be a bigger parcel of land I can build. I can put in more parking. I can bring in more of my programs, those kinds of things. So, and our population in one of the advantages is our population really isn't dependent on public transportation. So I don't necessarily need to be, so for instance, in other towns and areas that we might be looking at in the past and other stops professionally, we've always had to say, okay, we've got to be on a bus line or things like that. We don't necessarily need that just because a lot of the folks coming to our programs are not on public transportation. They do ride services, things like that, but they're not dependent on MBTA, to get in and out of our programs.
And a question for Joe, because you had mentioned, like the day services would be more commercial. For zoning, is that a true statement?
That particular property up the road here.
I know that is, but in general, would he have to be in a commercial area for day services? Like administrative?
I don't think
day
so.
service?
I don't think so. And besides that, I don't know if you qualify sort of like what if it was a sober house. you can just about put one of those anywhere, and I think you would qualify the same way.
Talking like 40,
Uh,
not 40.
not a 40B, it's, I forget exactly what they call it. But when you apply for a sober house, you know, most people don't want one there.
Mhm. Yeah.
They don't like it as long as they like it as long as it's not
Not
in
in
their
my backyard.
backyard, yeah.
The halfway house.
Yeah, kind of,
Shelter.
kind of. So basically what I'm asking is zoning would not be an issue.
Okay, because that would be something that would be the other part we'd have to learn more about, because I think a lot of the communities do it a little differently. But even just broad categories, you know, we have our residential programs. And then we have our administrative and then our day service programs, which from what I have always approached we've always approached those as mean to be more commercial spots. And then our residentials for the homes, even though it is part of a business, they tend to be, from what a lot of the communities we're in, they slot into standard typical residential zoning kind of
I
idea.
guess basically what I'm actually saying is, I don't think zoning would be an issue.
Oh, okay, that'd be great. Yeah, that gives a lot of
Because
flexibility of what we'd be
I
looking
think
at.
you would qualify for a residential or commercial. Because, and I'm not speaking for anybody else on
Yeah.
on the board, but I think for the purpose that it's in, if it ever went into court or something like that, I think it would be an easy sale to a judge. I mean, this is not detrimental to anyone in any area, because there are people there at all times to look out for these people or to take care of these people. So, and I don't know what kind of, how should I put this? This is, what type of people are there? What kind of disabilities that these people
Oh, okay.
have, so I can't really speak on
Sure.
that end of it,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
And it does vary from home to home. We do have some individuals that are 100% dependent on care 24/7. So they're in wheelchairs or significant mobility needs. So then we have other sites, other programs where the individuals have a much higher level of cognitive awareness. And those are individuals that sometimes they're going to jobs during the day. Some of those jobs are supported, and then some others are not. And by support, I mean, sometimes we, would need to send a staff person there to kind of shadow them or train them at least. And then we have some where folks are just really in employment, and unless we told you, you wouldn't really know that they're part of our program. So it does vary on that level.
Lenny, did you want to make a?
I question and then a statement. In regards to programs that service people with disabilities, the residential homes, the group homes, do they qualify under state standards as affordable housing? Or
I'm not sure
40B.
about that. I've asked a lot of different people, how does it work? And no one has ever been able to explain to me what the affordable thing is 100%. I think John might be able to.
I would say, talk to an attorney. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I've heard it so many different ways that I haven't been able to grasp enough to actually say it.
It's not surprising. Like I said, we're in a number of different towns in Bristol County, and we've asked the question in a couple different, not recently, because we haven't, like I said, with everything going on, we haven't looked to kind of start new programming. We've gotten some different answers. I looked over the record and kind of, yeah, it's kind of the answer we got. You got to go through when you're ready to quote unquote pull that trigger and really serious. You've got to go through the attorneys and kind of figure out where you would actually
Yes,
classify.
that's my.
Because you don't want to get the town into a spot where they're thinking they're depending on that to meet a federal requirement. And we're going in, because of tax breaks or tax incentive and things like that. And then midway through the process, realize it's not what either one of you thought. but now you're kind of already already committed. So,
But I think you were, if I understand your question. In his case, it's one big building. Not individual.
Well, we would have, there are individual homes.
Yeah.
There's also the day
Individual
program.
units.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have residential homes where folks, and a couple of those, some of those look like apartments. So, and then we do have homes where we have, from the outside, honestly, you can kind of, and quite honestly, if we're gonna be very honest, you can tell they're group homes just because they tend to be bigger, you have the larger driveways, things like that. Having said that, the inside, they look like their homes. They're homes and then we have, again, so there are folks there that live there 24 hours a day. I mean, just like you and I live in our houses. And then we have our day programs, which are, essentially bankers hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 kind of hours. And then on the weekends and overnight, they're vacant, they shut down like any other typical business would. And then obviously our administrative offices are also keep kind of typical work hours as well. So
There are 3 homes in residential neighborhoods in Dayton. They blend in quite nicely with the other homes in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You cannot.
And that's the beauty of these, of things like that, is that.
and that's the intent, we
Yeah.
want folks who live there to feel like they're part of the community, not feel like they're separate and, those kind of things too.
And how did you find those 3 properties? Are they existing homes that you're able to buy and
So
modify?
before my time, I know some of them, one of them we actually, a partnership owned through the state. And then there have been some others, just kind of our overall kind of portfolio. We've had some that we bought from other providers. And then we've had some that we've actually built. So, like I mentioned before, kind of if we look at our entire real estate portfolio, it's a mix of kind of any way that you could conceivably come into ownership of a home. I think we've done it. So that kind of thing.
A few years ago on Horton Street, I believe it was on the corner of Horton and Smith. It was before your time. They came into the planning board asking the planning board what they could do on that particular property, which was owned by the town. It still is, I believe. I don't think it was ever sold. And I don't know whatever came of it, but I thought what they were trying to do is build a very large building there to accommodate.
It could have, because at one point, we thought Interplast was going to sell the building.
Yes.
So I know a few years ago, and then there were a number of different scenarios kind of floated at co-op. One of them was to build out our site at 97 England Taunton. And I do know that there were other things floated around. I don't think they kind of went so far. The other part was Interplast then essentially said, oh, we can't sell it. We're not going to sell it, whatever. So I think we signed a longer term lease. But I do know there was a span of time where they I wouldn't say scrambling, because I don't want to say Interplast was pulling the rug, but it's kind of one of those things where Interplast says, listen, we're going to give you essentially a year, but a year for you and I to find like a new apartment to live is conceivable, but to relocate an entire program, it's a much bigger lift. So
Yeah.
from our standpoint, even though they gave us a full year, it still kind of feels like
Yeah,
it was
second-
like kind of last
second
minute.
point, Lenny?
Yes. We know development is coming to Dayton. We know that the developer at Strawberry Fields won a major decision with the state in regards to a 40B development. We know the MBTA impact zone is going to mean a lot more houses in a very short area. But before the developers come in, we would like to try to control our destiny as much as possible. And with that being said, there are a number of pieces of land and buildings owned by the town of Dayton that will be put on the market, auctioned off. But I had a discussion today with the treasurer who is responsible for those properties. And he, working with the building commissioner and several other town officials, are looking at the possibility of developing those properties in the sense that we could take larger pieces of land and subdivide them and create land that would be one, more valuable when it's resold. And looking to sell those properties through the auction process to the best advantage to the town. Or in simple language, the town is going to get more involved in the real estate business. And that's going to include developing properties to be resold. You know, we do our own perks already. We have Todd, who does perks for the town. There's no reason why we couldn't perk a piece of land and already make it more valuable to someone to purchase it. The second piece, and I'm hoping the Dayton Industrial Development Commission will be a part of it, and I know Mr. Figueredo has done a lot of it behind the scenes, is reaching out to businesses as we're doing this evening as well, and seeing how we can help them through the permitting process and help them hooking them up with realtors, even the owners themselves, to see what we as a town can help bring businesses and investors into the town who have a vested interest in giving back to the town. Cooperative Productions has been a very good neighbor and a big part of Dayton for a number of years. I've been with the company for over 26 years, and I know they've been in Dayton all those years. They employ several people. And one of the things that hasn't been mentioned, but also there are businesses in the town that could use some of the people we support and hiring them to work in their businesses. So there are many opportunities, and Mr. Reynolds, our treasurer, will be reaching out with you to discuss potential properties. But I want, since it's a public meeting, to make it clear that we're not just limiting it to Cooperative Productions, that any business or any developer that is looking to come into Dayton or sees the opportunity of coming into Dayton, that they reach out to the Dayton Industrial Development Commission or the Board of Selectmen's office, and we will put them in touch with the people that they need to see. Thank you.
So I don't know if, I appreciate your
Well,
comment.
thank
I
you.
appreciate you giving us an overview and giving us an idea of what we should be looking for that can help. I don't know if there's any specific takeaways that you're looking for us from this evening, or that anybody here had questions of for Mike.
I didn't have any specific takeaways. It was
Okay.
really just to introduce cooperative production. Part of it is, like I said, it's on our horizon, but we're not, this isn't something we're looking to do tomorrow, so to speak. I mean,
Correct.
sooner than over the next, probably our timeline to kind of making our decisions is probably over the next 6 to 8 months. Really taking a look at that's when we're gonna be doing our strategic plan, and a large part of that is going to be a pretty comprehensive facility plan, top to bottom of all of our properties. But part of that is taking a look at, what are we doing with our sites for, our program down the street.
What is the square footage of your program down the street that you'd be trying to replicate if you were to remove
It's
it?
pretty big. I don't want to guess now. I can get that information out. But we rent out a pretty sizable space out at Interplast.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I
And
mean-
then it's 2 stories.
The only place I can think of now that, and it's actually on the market, is Dayton Center, which is, I don't know what their vacancy rate is for businesses at the lower level.
Center,
The place on County Street, where 1712 is, and Alice's.
yeah, but they just got a whatchamacallit.
They're already they stuck it on the market. They're selling.
That's on the second floor.
That's what I was saying. They do have first floor, but I don't know what their vacancy rate is on that first floor for.
Oh, I don't know if there is any vacancy
Yeah.
there. But they do have an elevator to the second floor, which would help out in your case, and that's probably a 6,000 square foot area.
Okay.
They were trying to rent that out, but they couldn't find anything, so they came before us and we gave them a permit to put in
16, one bedroom.
16 one-bedroom apartments.
I don't think they're.
And as soon as they got that, they put it up for sale.
So,
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I have no idea whether that would really meet your needs. I'm just thinking of, the
Yeah.
only places I know in town that are somewhat similar that have that kind of square footage, that would be one. There might be others I can't think of at the moment, but
One of the things that we have done through the Board of Selectmen is to help businesses with the permitting process. And I'm going to give you a gentleman's name. They formed it, they call it a PAC. It's the people in town government that issue permits.
Okay.
And the person that's chairing that group is James Aguirre. He is the building commissioner. And if you had any questions for any permitting, he would be the person that you could reach out to, and he would
And at the same-
introduce you to the appropriate,
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we know.
the planning, you need to go.
For better or for worse, we know, I'm very familiar with, the minute you start talking about this, permits are, you live in, kind of live and breathe permits for a while. So, absolutely. No.
At the same time, he also is part owner of that building that
Oh,
we're
okay.
talking about.
Okay.
That,
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I'll have to take a ride out there this week. I'm
You
not exactly sure the
can't miss it
location.
as you
I think I know
go.
where it is, but I don't want to.
Alice's Restaurant,
Okay, I know the art. Okay, yep.
That whole second floor supposedly
Oh,
is all up wraps. And if somebody was to buy the building now, which is just what they're asking, I doubt that they will
$3
ever
million.
get it, but that would be,
3.2 million.
but I know the town owns one property that I tried and I made a presentation. If that's what you want to call it. About 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I'm not even sure.
Lenny wasn't.
That I wanted to put in a whole bunch of 1-2 bedroom houses throughout this whole thing. And I invited all of the town officials, the heads of it, to attend that. And I thought it was a great idea. Boy, it got, made me feel that small. So I said, it's not worth it to bring it up again. But honestly, I still say the need is there.
What was the address? Do you recall?
I'm sorry?
Do you recall the address? It was off Tremont Street? Is
It's
that-
on Tremont
Do you
Street.
remember what the address or where it is? Just if it's
I-
town property and if the town ever envisions selling it, it might just be something that,
Absolutely.
the treasurer or Lenny could bring up if you can recall the, like the location, the street.
Yeah,
address.
I'll get the location of it. I actually meant to bring the town maps in with me and I could look it up now, but said that's not.
There is a 15-acre piece of land
Oh, wow.
that the town is seriously looking to subdivide to resell, turn it over.
Yeah. The sewer would be approximately 1.2 miles of sewer that it would. That's what we would have to.
Put in.
Whoever subdivides that or develops it would have to do 1.2 miles of sewer. That way, there's no septic. There's no issues with any future problems. So. Hope.
Oh, any other questions for Mike or? Any questions for us?
No, thank you. I appreciate your
you
time.
coming. Thank you very
Terrific.
much.
You'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Do you have one quick question? Where are the restrooms?
That's
Still gonna be able to
right
use the restroom on the way.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you for making time. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
I would like to say that there is also early infancy stages, a property that will come before the Board of Selectmen very soon 40 acres. So,
Or
sorry,
what is it? Is it?
William Street, piece of property
And it's,
that could be open for discussion on different uses and it is a mixed
its own mixed use?
use, yes.
Is this the Reed's?
I can't because it's in the early negotiation. I can't mention the name. But, you know,
That would be a great.
also a potential
I have a question for him.
open space too. So,
Excuse me.
It's all a balance.
Just want to ask you one question.
there is potential, but we need to get ahead of the developers. You know, this Strawberry Field decision. It's been long in the making. And very shortly, the town is going to need to sit down and discuss with that developer what is going to go in on those properties.
Absolutely. Okay.
From the point of view of it's going to happen. How many, what type? Those discussions need to happen.
So I'm just gonna go back to the regular agenda. This was an item that actually John had suggested, you know, just following up on, I probably don't even pronounce this right, but Trevi Icos, which is the business up on Route 44 that is be moving. They have a Dayton location, but they're really based out of Boston, Trevi Icos. They have like 38 acres up there. He just thought it might be a good idea for a couple of us to go out there and visit and just do a site look. I know you had mentioned that you thought there was a lot of wetlands back there.
I actually spoke to
Oh, you did?
someone in regards to that.
Oh, good.
And they pointed out that there was quite a bit of wetlands. Very hard to put a big building there that would. Because there's a lot of vernal pools in areas that. Would, you know, it wouldn't work very well for
So is
putting up a
is
big
it,
business.
is it worth going up there, like just talking to the manager and just getting a
Well,
look?
why not? I mean, it doesn't hurt. But what I would suggest is that we had somebody from the town that's familiar with wetlands to advise us on things like that. Because there are
Yeah,
things.
she's very busy, I know. It's kind of, you know, she's,
Okay.
no, I mean, I'll ask her. I just know that she's, you know,
I mean, that would be nice if the three of you could go up there and take a look at it.
yeah, and I was thinking, you know, John and you definitely, and then one of us could accompany you, and I'll ask Lisa from Conservation if she'd be willing, if she could have the time to join us one day.
Mhm.
And then just give us her opinion up there about,
Yeah,
and we
because
could see how buildable it is and, you know.
I think if we go up there and we start looking at, oh, it looks good, and then all of a sudden she comes in.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
finish.
John.
Yep, go ahead, finish.
She comes in and she says, you know what? You have to be 125 feet off of this one all the way around. Well, that takes a few acres right there.
Yeah.
Others, it's 100 feet, others is 25 feet. So I don't know
Right.
the detail on that, so having somebody like her on this, it would be half of the battle as far as I'm concerned.
And I'd be curious as to what the four of you may feel would be best to put there. And if once we have an idea of businesses that would be good there, we could go out and try to recruit. Either that or work with a realtor in that particular area of expertise. You know what I'm saying?
John, sorry, you want that point?
Joe, you mentioned vernal pools. We have one down the street from us, and those vernal pools need to be registered with the state. Like,
Absolutely.
each one should have a number, and should be able to be found on a conservation map of the area. I haven't seen that. It's a large area, right? There's 38 acres there. And the town also owns some adjacent land that's landlocked right next door, I do believe. So this could potentially be a much
yeah.
larger parcel. It's a
Landlocked.
zero- It's called Chestnut Street.
Yes,
it's on the
yes.
assessors map. So it could potentially be a very large parcel. And when you look at maybe not the hydraulic map, but the map that would show high areas and low areas, it looks like it's maybe 65% of it is not wetlands. I'm not sure how that works, but it doesn't look like it's swampy, you know what I mean? Or all swampy.
Yeah, no, that's not what I was explained. There's a lot of, when you look at the map, there's a lot of dark areas there. And it was explained to me that looking at those dark areas, dark green, means that there is wetlands in that area.
Yep.
And there's others that it shows, there's a vernal pool here, there's a vernal pool there. The land is not that big up front, and then it kind of narrows down.
Yeah.
And the worst part is that most of this is on the narrow part that makes it very hard to get access to the back and expensive to get into the back by passing those wetlands.
Sure. Okay.
So I'll start with Conservation Commission. Lisa is the conservation agent manager for the, ask her if she'd be willing to join us. If not her, I don't know if any one of the members of the.
And who was here earlier,
Charlie
Charlie
Mello.
Mello.
Yeah, but if one of the members of the Conservation Commission, if Lisa can't, so I'm with
He's
her.
extremely knowledgeable. Yes.
And I'll try to set something up and then we can, after I talk to Lisa, then one of us can reach out to the management up there and.
I'm just not sure if we go there as a group. Can we do it legally,
3 of us or less.
3 or less?
4 is a quorum, so 3 of us or
Okay.
less and
I thought 3 was.
and Lisa wouldn't be a member, so she doesn't count, so.
Oh, okay, it's 7, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I do have a question
Sure.
regarding that. Joe, how far from the sewer tie-in,
4.
that land? A mile, 2 miles?
No, I don't think so. I think it's less than a mile because those apartment houses.
Yeah.
That just got put in at the corner of, what is that? Williams, it's not Williams, it turns into Glebe Street.
Is that
right?
Wheeler Street?
Wheeler Street is about, it's very close to the entrance to this property.
Right.
But Wheeler Street does not have a sewer.
Yeah.
Okay, so those apartments that, what's his name, just put in. The guy in Taunton that just put up,
Chris Coit?
Chris Coit,
Okay,
he's got sewer in there, right? I thought he brought it up to that point.
okay.
Am I right or?
Goes up to Segi, yes.
Okay, so if he put that in, then we're probably a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile to this property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's close.
So you,
But the other thing is, John just mentioned, is it abuts the Chestnut Street property that the town owns.
Mhm.
You know, you put these two together, then you could put in a decent size industrial park or something like that, that's right on the highway.
Right on Route 44. It's a great, it's a great location, right?
is that Taunton Water and TMLP?
I don't know.
You asked 2 questions. I'm not really sure.
So this is,
Taunton Water, yes, but
So if that's hot water has TMOP.
Wait a minute, no, is it Taunton-Water? Because Dayton is right around the corner there, the wells.
Yeah, but the feeder is, but is that the fire district or is that South Dayton? Because if it's the fire district, it's
know.
hot water.
Don't know.
But see, these questions are piquing my interest. The value of this property may be more than what.
Yeah, the other thing that we gotta make sure of, that I would definitely recommend that we do a 21E analysis on the property. Because there's been a lot of heavy equipment over there. And the property could be contaminated. So
you may
we
not
gotta
wanna
be
do.
extremely careful with that, with things like that, because no bank will finance anything on the commercial end of it, especially in that case, that the 21E has not been done, you know, so it's very, very important. 21Es are very expensive.
Potentials and potential liabilities. So,
Right.
good. So I'll follow up with Lisa and then reach out to everybody and one of us who's can talk to the man.
I'll make myself available, or whatever you guys decide, that's fine by me.
The next item is a summary of our first post-summary public forum, which I know Lenny, Patty and I, John came to. We had 2 participants come from the town. This was the in-person post-summary discussion. Serpent was very well represented. They did a great job, and I did set a thank you note to Lizette afterwards. It just wasn't very well attended. And I think she reached out to Mike afterwards and said, well, let's do a second one and do it by Zoom. And my feedback to Mike was, we had a really good response to the survey. We had about 120 people. You know, most of the responses were rather clustered, so we did get a good consistency about what people are looking for. I understand her passion about wanting to, follow up with it, but I don't think a second one attempt, even a Zoom-based one, is worth it. I think we do have a second year of funding from Serpent, and that second year is to start moving into, okay, what do we do now with those results? How do we put that into a marketing plan? I remember her talking, when we were talking very early on, when we first started meeting, Lenny, you were talking about doing a video about the town and trying to do that to help recruit businesses. And when Lizette joined, she's like, yeah, that's something that they could do for us. So these are all like the second year deliverables, now that we've got the survey behind us. And that first survey was also not as much, it was, I should say, both to get information and to just start generating buzz, just get people talking, just show them that we're interested, in bringing business in. I think we were successful in that too. So my feedback to Lizette is we're done with the survey. We don't need another post-survey summary with the town. Just start moving forward. I don't know how other people feel. You were there, Patty. It was a little
That was great.
disappointing. So yeah. So I don't know what other people think. Lenny?
And looking at the survey and the maps that were present, I saw something that really frustrated me. There are several pieces of land in the town of Dayton that are industrial zone that are landlocked. So it makes the actual development impossible. And the question I had to Mike and the question I have to John, is it legally permissible to trade open space land? The town has a piece of open space land and say it is preventing development. If a developer came in and was willing to purchase another piece of land that could be open space, could this be converted? Could we trade open space land and have a developer pay for it so that he would be able to access his business? Is that permissible by law?
I actually don't know, Lenny. One thing I can say is that here in Bridgewater, we had someone left a piece of land to the town as conservation commission, to the Conservation Commission as open space. And the town wanted to build a new fire department, and they're building a fire department on that piece of land.
Well, how did
So,
they-
pardon me?
How do they do that?
I actually don't know all the mechanisms, but what they basically said was this is town land and they wanted to make the best use of it. And so they are absolutely building a fire station on that piece
I
of
can
land.
honestly say that if it is owned by the town, providing that they follow the guidelines of the town. In other words, if there is a vernal pool, they have to follow how far to be away from it, for parking, for whatever. They have to follow all the guidelines the same way.
Yeah.
But they should be able to put whatever they want on it. But what you asked was, is it permissible to trade or to swap, however you worded it? That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it sounds like it would also be a question of, are you running afoul of actual zoning when you're trying to do this swap? Because that would necessitate a town vote to say, let's redraw the zoning.
That's okay. I mean,
Yeah,
how the townspeople decide, that's their prerogative. But to have that opportunity to have that discussion, knowing fully well, we're very limited on the amount of industry that we can bring into this town. And as a result, makes it very hard to keep the tax rate down.
Yeah.
Without something to, either that or major
The
cuts.
yeah.
Actually, if I may, Lenny, I remembered that what the town did was in proposing not only the fire station, but what they did, they proposed that they would develop some walking trails within that piece of land so that it kept like the
Oh, yeah.
overall kind of conservation, open space.
I respect
They were able
that,
to
yeah.
put a town facility on there. Yeah.
Especially now where we have this land, and I'll be honest, that 40 acres that I mentioned earlier, that is potential, it could go open space, or it could go mixed use.
Mhm.
I would, not trying to tell you what to say, what not to say, I would limit.
Okay, Okay.
Because price will keep on creeping up the more we talk about it.
okay.
That's my opinion.
No, thank you.
but it sounds like everybody is okay that we kind of strayed away from the topic, but in terms of telling Lizette, we're done with the survey, the
Mhm.
post-survey summaries.
I
Let's just
agree.
move on to year 2 and marketing and planning and is that okay, with everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll reach out to Mike and Lizette and tell them that's our decision. We look forward to working with Lizette for year 2. Next is a standing business item, discuss any new business interests in town. I don't have any in particular, although Lenny and I, and Patty, you may have overheard it too, there was a gentleman one of the 2 people that did come to the forum was Jonathan Gray, who some of you may know. So his family owns Stevens Island in North Dayton. It's
The old post office in North Dayton,
Oh.
that land there.
So they propose, or his parents, I believe, who own it, are proposing to put up a
Laundromat?
how did you describe it? Like an open meeting space where you can come in and use like short-term, even like day at a time type office space use.
Like a WeWork,
Um,
like a
yeah.
WeWork. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it'll be set up for offices and you can come in for a day at a time or for however long. And he would be coming, he said he said he didn't think he had to go to the planning board for this. He had to go to zoning board of appeals. I'm not quite sure what the details are that would drive that, but it is something that they plan to move forward for.
There is not enough frontage there. the building that was there, they didn't even have access to the back of it due to the fact that they didn't have the ICI, I believe it is the owner of most of the land there. So the building that was there. Now, I don't know if they own any more back there, but I don't think they do. When I built the post office here, they were always in arguments with the post office. So bad that they actually put Jersey barriers on the front of the property, on the sidewalk, so that they couldn't get in and out with their trucks. They actually had to access the mail through the front door. That's how bad it was. So I know that somebody bought that property. And after it was knocked down by the town, I believe. And they wanted to put a laundromat there, which I thought was a beautiful idea. They couldn't do it for some odd reason. I don't know the details, but I know that's what I heard.
The same family still owns it, and they're looking for another business opportunity, and this is what they're thinking of right now. But
They're very, very limited to what they have there. It's
so maybe that's why he's envisioning a zoning board of
the zoning board of appeals to go something like that.
I'm not aware of any other new business in town to bring up.
No.
The next item is budget and future funded projects. So we actually have not been expanding all the monies in the way we thought we were when we asked for money from the town this year. We thought we'd be spending money on mailings for the Business Expo and for the town surveys. Those were covered by the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce. Those were covered by Serpent. The only thing we expended money on so far, we thought we were going to spend money on the Firecracker Festival. Mike Mullen was covered that out of excess monies he had in the his own department. So we did, make the we became a sponsor of the Business Expo for $250. So that leaves $750 remaining in our budget for the year. The only thing we really know that we're going to be doing is next year's Firecracker Festival, which we were under no funding and a tight timeline last year, so we could do something a little better. But my question is, are there things people want to think about between now and next July that it's not a tremendous amount of money, but that we might want to be thinking about an event, a celebratory something or other for those funds?
Because the firecracker, that will be the next fiscal year.
Yeah, but we'll be buying it this year.
Oh, okay.
And it'll happen in July, but we'll buy it this year. But John?
So one of the things we did talk about was that video, right? And that Serped could help us maybe, get, the marketing materials and that sort of thing. But is there something that we could do where we could possibly use some of these funds to get some of the raw video at least captured for us? So maybe drone type video or something like that. We were talking a little bit about, it would be great to have some beautiful overhead shots of the bridge and the river and that sort of thing. Could we maybe hire some type of videographer to take some, raw footage for us that we can use next year?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, is to think like that. I like it.
I know how to spend money.
I do know that professional videographers for drones, it goes for about $150 an hour.
Okay.
And that's for their time, not necessarily for the footage. It's not like an hour footage. I don't know if some of the colleges nearby, that may have programs that, we could do it at a cheaper rate. So I don't know that Bristol Plymouth does anything like that. I can start there, but then some of the Rhode Island or Bridgewater State College and see if anybody has anything.
UMass Dartmouth, mate.
UMass Dartmouth.
Yep. And I also know folks at Bridgewater State University, so if you'd like me to reach out
Okay.
to Vinny at Bridgewater State, if you'd like me to do that.
If you could just ask if they have such, resources there and,
Sure,
then we can go from there and I'll do the same at UMass.
sure.
You have something you wanted to ask or any? Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if, what's her name, Nancy Goulart, used to work for UMass, right?
Well, the auditor's office, she did the books.
It's a connection.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, she did the whole college, the UMass college system. Yeah, she does. She does have. to do.
Right.
And although I think it's less likely, it could very well that Bristol Plymouth does have something, so I'll also inquire there as well.
Mhm.
Um,
I
all right, that's a
also,
good idea.
Dan,
yes.
I also know a former or current Dayton resident. His name is Peter Duffy, who I went to school with. He was in charge of all of the facilities management at UMass Dartmouth. Would you like me to get in touch with him to see?
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay,
Connections.
connections are what it's all about.
The next item is to discuss the mission statement for the town. I have copies here if people want them. So we did bring this up last time, and there was some discussion around it. And so I just did want to bring it up again and see what people's thoughts were. It is the exact same thing we talked about last time. I think people just had more time to digest it and think about it. And what, how it compares to what really we're chartered for, which is the town chartered us using a state, not bylaw, but a state, guideline about development and industrial commissions. So they charted us under that, and I think the discussion last time was about, is part of our role to bring revenue into the town. And that's a byproduct of our role, but it's not our job to be bringing revenue to a town or to be financially responsible for the town. So I think falling back to our job is to promote business, promote even educational possibilities that help, promote business as well. So I didn't know if people wanted to have more discussion about this, or if they were ready to take a vote on it. And if so, and we're doing this because with the design of the new town website, they're asking all the committees to have mission statements. Which, it's good to have anyway, but that was really the genesis of our doing it now, so. Anybody have any
You with
questions?
it? No, I'm good.
Does anybody want to make a motion to adopt the mission statement?
So I thought we were gonna revise it.
Well, that was my question. So what the changes that, I talked to Raphael about it, who had some concerns about it, but he's said he's okay with it as it is now. So what changes would you like to see? We're not going to be, I don't think we can put in there that, our job is to increase town finances.
Or to improve, I know we talked about that it would be also a byproduct of improving
Right.
the economic condition of local businesses.
Well, that is our role, actually, to help do that, by attract new business and help.
To attract new business.
And help businesses in town. To improve the economy of the commercial base of the town is really our job. And this it would be like how we go about that.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the mission statement.
I can second that.
Okay. More discussion? No? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, good. So I'll have that posted. The next one I think I mentioned this, and I may have shared this with everybody before. But, one of the feedbacks, at least I got, was about home occupation, home-based businesses.
Yep.
So, I drafted, it's a draft only, changes to the existing town bylaw for home-based business. And I'm not asking him to do a vote on this, or really we can talk about it, but really what I was hoping was that if people thought it was at least a good idea to move forward on, that I get permission to start sharing this with town clerk, town manager, assessors department, planning board, anybody else that would be building commissioner, anybody else that might be impacted, and start getting their feedback long before, this goes any further in terms of actually presenting it to the town or even presenting it formally to the planning board, who would have to, weigh in on zoning changes. But what I was hoping to do is, I think, and I'm keep hearing this anecdotally, I don't know these places, the businesses. There's a fair number of automotive shops in town that operate out of their homes. Nobody seems to complain about them. They just go about their business, but it's not really technically legal. There's same with beauty salons, nail salons, same things happening. They're technically not allowed under the bylaws. And my real concern when I brought this up, and I mentioned it to Mike, is if we have bylaws that we don't enforce, it's pretty much, if we were to go to court, because somebody argued against it, it's almost like having no bylaw at all. They could say, if you're not going to enforce it,
Why have it?
why have it? And why are you stopping me now when I want to do it?
Mhm.
So either you enforce it, or you make something that you are willing to enforce. I'm also recommending that this all be done at a special permit. It's not like by right that you have this occupancy. And also a change to allow retail out of homes for home produced goods only. Things that you make on site,
Mhm.
that you want to sell out of your house.
Mhm.
All of these would have potential issues to people, and that's one of the reasons I want to start distributing this to committees and saying, like, what do you see are the issues, particularly, Jim Aguirre, what do you see as the issues? Is it something you're thinking of that we're not thinking of?
The issue that comes to mind right now is if you are living in strictly a residential area, then you start having, you said retail
Yeah, with
out
limits.
of your home, then that means you're gonna have people in and out of your home all the time.
Well, with limits, so something like no more than 2 people at a time. Parking,
You're still gonna be allowing that.
yeah, you would.
I would limit that only to mail order. Not to visiting, because what are they selling?
Hmm.
Oh,
I-
it's,
Yep, yep, if I may, here's a
Yes.
perfect example. There's a person in Taunton that sells handmade soap out of her house. And you can buy it online, right? It's very high quality soap. You can buy it online and they say, come pick it up tomorrow at noon. And there's a little bag outside with your name on it. And you pick up your soap. So it's an e-commerce site, but she sells it out of her house. It's a small business, she's pretty successful and she has people coming and going. And it is kind of a retail thing. Nobody goes into her house, but she's selling this retail product that she makes at home. So that's an example.
I mean, she can sell anything out of there. Nobody knows what's in the bag.
True.
Are we promoting things like that?
Well, the bylaw, as I drafted it, it would have to be things produced out of your house. You can't be reassembling things, you can't be redistributing like, a wholesale to a retail. It's home-based products, it's soap, it's agricultural, you're selling honey, you're selling.
I'm worried about drugs.
I'm also,
Isn't there's one, somebody who runs a wellness type of service from her house and she sells CBD oils. That was one of her clients. She's selling them.
Probably not technically able
And she
to right
does
now.
massage therapies as well.
Yeah, those are all things that I don't think are currently allowed.
so I guess my question is, with regard to our mission and our role of of improving the economic condition of local businesses by attracting new businesses and by retaining and helping the others to expand. I'm just not sure, is this within the scope?
Well, these are town businesses.
Well,
And we're expanding their opportunities to operate in town.
but we're also looking at adding to what's already on the books in order to
To allow more, yeah.
allow more.
Yeah.
Or to, in some instances, it may restrict.
Well, actually not what I'm proposing. It's all to allow more. So to allow things that are not allowed currently. And if you feel strongly about the retail piece, I mean, maybe that's not something we want to promote, but maybe the others like automotive, beauty pageant, professional things like you offer massages out of your house or something like that. Or,
Yeah, there are those too.
Or
Yeah.
taxes, like, so on William Street, when you drive down and it says taxes, so what, there's a sign, I don't even know.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
person, but is that like a business zoned road though? So I
don't
thought
think,
that,
I don't think all of William Street is mixed use. You just have.
we have that like flooring company and we've got the
Yeah,
little,
yeah. There's.
the little shop, so
a
I
farm
just
stand next
assumed
door.
that if they have a sign out there, it's zoned for that.
Across from that carpet place, there is a little business there. They came to the planning board and we okayed that business, a small white house that's there. They got a handicap ramp on the side. I don't remember what it is that they do there, but they came to the planning board
Mhm.
and we okayed everything that they were asking for. I don't know that it was zoned. It had to be zoned accordingly. Otherwise, we couldn't have done it. But I don't think William Street is all the same zoning.
No, it isn't.
So,
Well, you got marijuana.
well, the marijuana thing, that was a special thing that we did. It only goes from this number to that number and that's it.
And then you have some commercial businesses.
Well, across the
Yeah.
street is all.
Well, no, I mean, on the right-hand side, you have a car place there, works on cars.
Yeah. But that was a special thing that we did. Does not go any further.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
can they do that anymore?
No, you have to do either 2 or 3 properties side by. Go ahead, John.
John, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's the very beginning of this. If we look at this and say it's businesses or professions incidental to and customarily associated with the principal residence. So this is talking specifically about having a business in a principal residence. You know what I mean? This is all about having a business in a home. Right? It's the very first sentence, home occupations as of right. Businesses of professions incidental to and customarily associated with the principal residential.
Yeah. So there are 2 sections, John, and this is already in our bylaws. There are 2 sections. There's home occupation as of right, meaning
Oh, yeah.
you can do what you want. Nobody can stop you. This is what you can do. And then there's home occupations by special permit. So for home occupations by special permit, I did strike out the and customarily associated with.
Yeah.
Because working on cars, I guess it might be, it's not really incidental to your principal residence. I mean, it's so, but that's all by special permit. The planning board or zoning board of appeals would have to really look at what you're trying to do and say, yes or no, you really are going to meet all the guidelines of no excessive traffic, no noise, no pollution, no glare, no, and people back from the neighborhood and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Get butters to approve, to weigh in and, et cetera. So what do people think though about the retail aspect and Joe's point? If I were to move this forward and ask other committees to weigh in, do you think we should strike that piece of it? I mean, I'm thinking about your soap example, but I'm also thinking about, what Joe's saying his concerns are, so.
Well, I mean, it's my concern. It's something that's in my mind. But how do you guys feel about it? That's,
I'm kind of with the soap, which is, and it said in here, produced on site. And also, I did say something about not otherwise guided, but not otherwise limited by zoning. So in other words, you can't sell cannabis out of your house because you have a cannabis zone. That's the only place it happens.
and
And
how do you control that if you're allowing retail out of somebody's home?
don't know that you can legally say like, let me inspect
I don't
your
think we
package.
You have,
No.
we just lost control of everything. Once we allow this, that's my whole point. People can go and order large amounts of whatever they want into their homes because Amazon is delivering daily. I mean, they come to my house 2-3 times a week, if not a day, and nobody knows what they're delivering. Nobody knows what they pick up. So it's the same. If it is allowed by a special permit, instead of just soap, why don't we sell more of this? We can go and buy this, order it from China or whatever it may be, and let's sell it all out of the house. I mean, I don't know if we're opening up a can of worms. That's my biggest
Yeah.
issue.
Oh,
And again, this is only my opinion.
yeah, that's fine. I just asking what everybody thinks.
So I think, Joe, a lot of folks actually do that, but what they do is they never take possession of the goods. And so what they'll do is set up a website and say, I'm selling all of this stuff. But they never actually have it in stock. As soon as you order it, they go order it from their suppliers and have it drop shipped directly to the customer. So the middleman, the retailer in that instance, never takes possession of any of that material. And that is kind of like the only way these middlemen can actually make any money. From my experience anyway.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
It still doesn't mean that by allowing this person to sell this and they can pick it up, the retail end of it is what makes, they can do that regardless. Anybody can do that. That's a
Right.
mail order business. But when we allow the retail out of their home and have people pick it up and stuff, that's the one that makes me wonder, that's.
I don't know, this does say those sales of items specifically governed by other zoning bylaws shall not be allowed, right? I mean, doesn't that mean?
Well, I think everybody's agreeing what Joe is suggesting would be absolutely illegal, not just by a bylaw, but probably by state and federal law too. But are you enabling somebody to make this easier for them to accomplish? Sure. Yeah.
Should we require all homeowners of businesses to go through a special permitting process?
The town does not do that now. The town says, as of right, you can do this out of your house. And it lists a few things that you can do.
As Joe said, it's hard to regulate that unless somebody dines out their neighbor.
That's,
I think that's always going to be good way. If it's just I think the purpose of the home occupation as of right was probably developed because people they may make soap it starts out as a hobby and then people say, I love your soap, but it does cost them for the materials. And so maybe they make crafts and it's not a big business. And so this allows for them to do this sort of like in the privacy of their own home, as long as what they're doing isn't taking up more than 30% of their, combined floor area. They don't have excessive traffic. They don't have any, disturbance caused by that. It's sort of, I mean, you can put on the books, that they are required to fill out, if by word of mouth, a neighbor found out that someone was doing that, you could, then somebody, told on them, and then I guess they have to fill out the form. But I think since the beginning of time, people have been selling little things out of their house. I know I sold Avon. I was like 12 years old. I didn't fill out a form at the town, and I went door to door, and, the box came to my house, and I filled my orders and I delivered them. And, I think so. I'm just not sure the purpose of this in terms of promoting. I think it's really great when a home business starts out small like that, like, somebody's making soap and it really takes off out of their kitchen. That's like an amazing thing. And then if it really took off to be like a business, then perhaps the person, it's going to take up more space on their property. And so they may build, it talks a little bit about, what building space you can use within on your property, that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's how businesses grow, homegrown businesses grow. And at that point, the person may need to go before the board and say, I want to build a shed in my backyard and, produce this and invite the neighbors and go through. I guess what I'm trying to verbalize is there's already a process on the books for all of that to kind of organically happen. And I'm just not quite sure what
Other
our
limits
purpose.
It doesn't, the very things that you said that people would do, like the selling soap, the process right now says, no, you cannot. That's what.
Right, but we already said like, it's not enforced unless someone goes and
Complaint.
tells on them.
Compliance.
And I think the one reason why people don't go and complain is because it isn't an issue for them as a neighbor. If it's an issue for me as a neighbor, I'd be up at the town hall the next day. I'd be getting my other neighbors to come along with me. I hear what you're saying about, legally speaking, not enforcing laws. But I'm not sure that this.
Well, actually who started this with me, and it came about when John and I were going around talking to businesses. Some guy who owns it's a truck repair here in Dayton right now. It's a commercial location and it's a big operation. And he said, I'm going to retire in 5 years, 7 years. I'd love to, I have a big clientele. I'd love to be able to fix a truck engine in my backyard. And by the way, I've got 15 acres and it's way back from the street and nobody sees me. And I know a bunch of people in town who do it anyway. However, I have a difference. I have a neighbor who hates my guts, and she will make her mission to make sure I never do it, whether she sees a truck or not. She will just go out of her way and complain to every board. And that's not fair. Why is everybody else getting to do it? And I know I'm not going to be able to get away with this.
Right.
And that was the genesis really of, my bringing it back here. So.
Exactly.
Why are there two 2343s?
Say that again?
There are two 2343s. The second 23 is different.
When I
No, it should have been
inserted things, I didn't
recorded.
renumber them correctly. That's my
The
mistake.
second 2343, the home occupation shall not serve clients, customers, people, salespersons,
Yes.
or the like in the premises.
Under the home occupation is a right. If you want to do that, you have to go by a special permit, which is section 2
Mhm.
below.
Mhm.
And then exactly, Dan, right? In the situation that you just described, we would be able to enforce this ruling and allow that business if they had the special permit, and then the neighbor wouldn't be able to complain.
But would so under this process, and I'm not really knowledgeable about the process, the neighbor would also be invited. The person applies for the permit. So I'm a guy, I have 15 acres. I want to fix a couple of cars in the back of my property. You'll never see me or hear me. I'm the neighbor next door. Will I be invited to the permitting?
Oh, yeah. But you don't get to decide, but you get a voice. I mean,
Usually
come to
the
the,
butters
yeah,
are notified.
yes.
Yeah, when it's a special permit, all the butters are.
Yeah.
Invited to it.
But the planning board or zoning board of appeals.
So
would
it's
never
not
decide.
until it's approved anyway, is my point. If the guy wants to do, he could start fixing a car one at a time. He can just say, I'm helping my buddy. That's what people do. Let's like just talk real. But being paid on the side, the neighbor complains he's fixing cars on the property.
We come, the town shows up and shuts him down. Him, not the other half dozen guys that are doing it because their neighbor didn't complain, but just him.
He can say, I was just helping a friend of mine.
He can,
If that's really his intent, to just do, that's really.
Without getting any pay.
Right. So they shut it down and then he goes for the special permit. And she can still, so I don't really, again, I guess,
If he has a permit, then he can go on and continue fixing cars.
Yeah.
His neighbors can't do anything about it.
she has a, I mean, butters have a voice at the permitting process. They don't decide.
They don't
It's the
decide.
planning board or zoning board of appeals that decide, but all the butters are invited to voice their.
The things, the opposition that we're gonna get is. How can you do it for one and not do it for others? And-
Yes, you're gonna get
It's a
that.
slippery
And
slope.
that's gonna be.
Well, that's why I want to make it uniform. So if we
So-
don't get that,
What's in black is already there and what's in
Exactly.
red is what we're
is what I'm
proposing.
proposing, yeah.
Yeah.
What's in black is already there. And it continues on to page 2. I know it's a little bit hard to understand the table on page 2 and page 3, but this is how the zoning is laid out now. It lists what type of business you can do under what things and commercial uses under a residential setting. You know, there's some things that are already permitted as a special permit, like a nursing home, a funeral home. Some things that are flat out not permitted, like motor vehicle sales and rental. So the ones in red are the ones that I'm suggesting we make alterations to say primarily around retail, motor vehicle, general and body repair, business and professional, including, you know, medical, but it would also be taxes and all those kinds of business and professional type things. And personal service establishment, which is where the manicurists and beauty pageants and barbers and those people come in.
What if you rent a private property, it's a seasonal parking space or
This much,
I don't know.
for RVs and motor vehicles?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point. We do have a neighbor who does that and it's probably not allowed.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't really address that in here, so,
Hope you're gonna do it, Matthew.
on,
well, I didn't say, and
on number 11. Motor vehicle general body repair with principal. Residents, I think we would have to. Put some acreage to this.
okay,
Because, in my opinion, I think it's important because if we have somebody that their house is 50 feet off the road and they want to work off of their garage that's attached to the house and they start doing body work in there and, you know, it's always visible. If
okay,
they had something that was a little bit off-site, like you were talking about this gentleman with the 15 acres. I think that's a great idea, but having a 35,000 or 30,000 square foot lot and having running a business out of their automotive business of any kind, I don't think the neighbors are gonna be happy about it. No. You agree?
no, that makes perfect sense, I agree.
Hmm.
And that's kind of why I wanted to start doing this with like. And the board and the assessors, I don't really know if the assessors are involved, but all the people who may have to either enforce this or deal with the complaints or that sort of thing and start getting all their feedback.
I mean, there's, in the beginning, I think you're gonna get a lot of opposition from the neighbors and stuff.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure I would want it officially on the. So right now, help me understand, right now, there is motor vehicle.
Sales.
General and body repair or light service is not allowed in a residential area
Right.
right now. Yeah, and I'm not really sure, like, if the guy across the street from me that I face his house. that he could get a special permit and like have two cars. Cause then what happens is like, then you have extra vehicles and the garage light on all the time
Yeah,
and the radio playing and his buddy coming over and the guy
And
coming
that-
and strangers in your neighborhood.
I think the problem
like-
is limiting the amount of vehicles
Yeah.
on site.
I think I
Unregistered vehicles should not be allowed
think I put two.
on a residential.
I believe it's two, right?
No, you can't do it at all right now. So
Oh,
my suggestion was it be limited to two at
Two,
a time. You
right.
can't have more than two properties. I mean, this is your house and it's a resident.
Yeah,
Two vehicles there max.
and they would have to be away from the residence.
Yes, yeah. So I think adding acreage.
Acreage to it
Yeah.
would probably limit that.
Mhm.
But to
And-
your point is, if you just want to say, oh, they just all do it, let's just let it be the status quo, which is it's all under the table. What about that guy that wants to build his place and his neighbor's never gonna let him do it under the table? Why is he different because of his neighbor?
I think it has to do with the disturbance, like what I just described.
Right, so that's part of this, no disturbance. It's in the, it's actually already in the bylaw, no, but that's part of the
I
special
mean,
permit.
acreage isn't gonna solve my issue.
It's not going to.
No, I mean, like if right now we're all on 1 acre, but so if you say it's two, I mean, how specific and is that our role as a,
That's a planning
board.
board's role.
It will be, the special permit is the planning board role.
correct, so like
And
I just don't
We
understand.
would have to put a footage to it from the house, away from the house. Or make them put a fence around the area that they're gonna be working in. The things that I see a complaint is that he'll bring his car to be repaired. He doesn't pick it up that day, then I bring my car in to be repaired. And then before you know it, there's 4 or 5 cars there.
Well, that would be a violation.
Bingo, there's a
Well, so
phone
just
call
like
coming.
guys working in the driveway with the tools everywhere all the time and like, you know, it's different from like, you
Yeah.
just do it once in a while because I'm a mechanic and I know how to do it and I'll help you fix your brakes. We do that as regular people. And I guess I just, the more I sit here thinking about it, by saying that on my street, people could actually have a business where they're doing this like across the street and I'm looking at it. I'm not sure I want to look at that.
John, did you want to say something? Yeah.
A couple of things. One is with the motor vehicle and general body repair, does that include auto detailing? Because I know of a business in Dayton that does auto detailing in a residential area.
It was, yeah. They're probably
Okay, so-
illegal right now, so.
Yeah. So is that included in?
Yeah, that would be general. Yeah, that's
Okay.
my intention, yeah.
Okay, and then the other question I had was, when you talk about the assessors, would this be something where if some business does go for a special permit, would Dayton be able to get any additional tax revenue from the business assets of that small business?
I do not know the answer, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it past the assessors, because there is potentially, I'm sure it's not humongous, but it may be taxable.
I can tell you that when the barber shop was here, I was paying extra at the time. Per year was costing me an extra $300 a year just because that was a commercial business.
Mhm.
So will that trigger the same thing?
But, yeah.
Yeah,
And if it does, and we don't put the right stipulations in there of what they can and cannot do, it's gonna be, it could bring up problems. People complaining all the time, who's gonna be in charge of policing that and things like
But we
that.
don't police it now. We
Right.
don't police it now, that's the point, so.
Yeah.
but to me, that tells us there isn't a problem.
the Jim's contention.
I guess the reason why it's not policed, if it were a problem, as the law stands, as a neighbor, I could say, I'm concerned. I see too much activity over there. There seems to be some just disturbing noise or smells or, whatever. And I could
Yeah.
have this town officials go over and take a look and they would say, well, this is residential, it's not zoned for business, sorry. And I like that as a resident to be able
To be able to
to do
speak.
that. Now that they may say, oh, there's nothing really going on. We told them to clean up the side yard and not to be doing that so much, keep the noise down after 9 or whatever. So like, I guess I'm more conservative in this regard.
But do you want us to go around and shut down everybody that's doing it right now, even if whether the neighbors?
Why
complain or
would
not?
we?
Because it's the law, and they're not supposed to be doing it, it's against the zoning. Do we go shut them down now?
I don't think so, because it's not really bothering anybody. And I
That's
think,
not zoning. That's not zoning. Zoning says, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. You can't do this here, shut it down.
Mhm.
That's the zoning.
that may be the case, but I think one reason why we moved to Dayton is because there is a little bit of flexibility here and we have a community and a culture and we are neighbors with one another. And my neighbor wants to do something, grow a little flower garden and now all of a sudden it's getting too many tomatoes and they want to put a little tomato stand out on the side yard. And it's not bothering me and it's not bothering. I really don't want the town of Dayton going to my neighbor and saying, shut that down. People are pulling up looking at your tomatoes.
I
That's
don't
not
think,
the community that I bought into. So I guess I understand there are
Yeah.
laws on the books and we're not enforcing them, but I think we're not enforcing them because then the people that may be violating them are not harming anyone. They're not disturbing their neighbors. It's not of a concern, a safety concern. It's sort of like good old
Yes.
fashioned hometown America.
Unless
and-
your neighbor hates you for
Exactly.
no
but
good
if your
reason.
neighbor
Yeah,
hates you
that's-
for no good
that's-
reason, then that person still, as the law is written, from what I understand by the answers that I've heard, that man can go
No,
to
no, you
and
cannot. That's what I'm trying to change. You cannot do that right now. It's illegal. The neighbor complains, you're not going
yeah,
anywhere.
but he can go and get a special permit.
No, that he cannot. That's why I wanted to put it in here, that he can go get a special permit. Right now, he cannot.
For
It's illegal,
fixing
period.
vehicles.
If period, you can't do it. It happens because your neighbor doesn't complain, but if your neighbor complains, you cannot do it. Nobody's supposed to do it. And that's what I'm trying to change.
Okay, and same thing for like hair salon,
Right.
nail salon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Lenny, you've been trying to get in.
Well, I have a few things, but I'll say specific to this particular topic. If we have one enforcement officer of the law, of this,
Who's stretched thin already.
who has made it very clear that he does not go around and
What?
play policeman. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting prior to this to discuss an issue where some people had voiced concerns about a particular business and what was going on, and that complaints from some neighbors, also from a couple of different departments within the town. And the charge that the Board of Selectmen gave to Mr. Aguirre, and he totally agreed and accepted, was to work with that businessman to create a situation where it was win-win. That his needs were met and worked within the rules and bylaws of the town. But Jim doesn't go looking for trouble. If people complain, he will go out and,
enforce the law.
well, but he will mediate the situation. Not these laws and bylaws. It, as Pat mentioned earlier, need to be enforced with fairness, but also not in an adversarial way.
Mhm.
I agree. I'm just trying to make it fair for everyone and increase business opportunities in town, businesses that are already in town. And may or may not have issues down the road. You know, give them a fair footing, particularly if they invest in their business, they may be buying special equipment, they may be doing something that's, you know, a little bit financially risky for them to take on something that they could be shut down tomorrow because, you know, maybe their neighbor does suddenly start to complain to them. So I actually feel really strongly about this going forward. I know there's different issues. All I'm asking is permission to start sharing it with other departments and get all their feedback too, particularly Jim.
I'll give you all the permission you want.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it either way. Because I feel that it is a good idea. Is there problems with it? Yes, there is. Can they be corrected? Have my reservations on it. As she was saying that we can't go and take away a young kid to put tomatoes or put lemonade out there to sell. Is that against the law? Yes, it is, because you're selling, you know, and we'll never be able to say anything. I wouldn't even, if one of my grandkids came to the house and said, look, can I put sure, go right ahead. You know, I would love to see that. That means, you know, they've got a will to do things. Will that stop people? This stop people? No, I don't think it will. And I don't think anybody in their right mind would go and enforce something like that. Could we?
You're asking that you start, I mean, do you really need our permission to start talking
Yeah,
about this as a citizen?
course,
Or
with
you
this
want to talk
committee.
about
It's
it
a
as?
committee. As
um,
the DDIC saying, Jim, to the assessors, to the town clerk, to the town administrator. I'm not sure who else might need to have looked past it and say, what do you think?
Has Jim looked at this yet?
No, that's why I want to start doing that. But I want it to come from our committee to say, Jim, this is what we're suggesting. What do you think? Where are the problems? What would you change? And then ask, you know, the assessors department, because maybe some of this is taxable to them. Ask the, you know, Mark Pacheco, it's like, you know, we're saying that people have to come in and fill out this form to declare. Is that a heartache for you, or is any of this gonna come back and hit you in ways you're not thinking about, you know? And then informally, maybe with the planning board, but then more formally, maybe come spring, after we get all that input, say to the planning board, this is what we're suggesting. What do you think? Because we would be asking you to take it forward.
I would also give a copy of this to Carrie. Just to have her,
Carrie used today. Okay, yeah.
I don't.
I talked about it with her. I haven't shared this, but a copy of it but I talked about it with her and she was like, yeah, that makes sense, but not the details. So, yeah.
Mhm.
I like her opinion in every aspect of it.
John?
I think that, I think going around getting these folks' opinion and feedback in, you know, comments into this document is all a good thing, Dan. So
Okay,
I'm all for it.
all
Absolutely.
right.
Dan, this is standing, the effort that you.
I agree.
And thank you.
I thank you for that, absolutely.
Yep, thank you.
Item 2348,
2, 3, 4, 8.
yes, traffic generated shall not exceed volumes normally expected. That's normally expected is somewhat ambiguous.
Oh, that's actually part of the
That
bylaw
was
today. That's in
there.
black.
yeah.
It's already in the bylaw.
That's already
It's
part of
black.
the black is already in the bylaw.
Right,
So that's already there.
but it could be changed.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you mean it should be more
Because
explicit.
ultimately,
Okay.
everything, since we may edit this would have to be presented
As a.
at a town meeting. So although you've edited some things or added some things, we could add some other things. I mean, this would be a great opportunity
Okay,
to look at some of those in the black and see if,
are they vague and
yeah,
more specific?
normally expected. You know, it's normally expected on Cobb's Lane. It's quite different than what's expected on 138. We're going to have a bylaw that
Yeah,
that's hard to enforce? You know, and what is normally expected? 10 cars, 20 cars, 30 cars? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that also is a very loaded question. What's expected by you may not be expected by me or by any one of us, you know? We're all gonna have, so I think those words, which they are existing, I think they need some work.
Yeah, this subjective, right?
okay.
This subjective.
Yeah.
The HOA, I think is, which is what you put in, I think that's,
I thought it might be
Spot on.
redundant because it might be already true, whether we say it or not, but
yeah, but they would have to approve.
yeah, right,
That
yeah.
HOAs, we should not have anything say about that.
Oh,
Well, that's, again, it-
Yeah, no, if the HOA said you can't do it, town's not gonna say,
Then
oh,
you can't.
then you can. It's not like the town can
And-
override them.
Yeah, and I do live in an association, and one thing that I love about it is we do have an agreement from like 22 years ago, but everybody agrees that it doesn't really, that people have put a signs out or displays or maybe parked a.
yeah, I,
And because we don't mind, but we do have an agreement, so we could go to the association and hold a meeting and say, you know what, your fence there is bothering us, and maybe the person would have to take it down. And it has nothing to do with the town.
my neighborhood doesn't have an HOA, but it has restricted covenant.
Mhm.
And I like it. The only thing is after 20 some odd years of living there, or actually 30 some odd years of living there, nobody pays any attention to that.
Right.
And the attorneys, as properties get sold, they don't even acknowledge that.
Mm.
So people have come in, like we had a thing that said no more than one unregistered, no unregistered vehicles. No clothes hanging line, no chicken coops, no this, no that.
Yeah.
That's it. I built a subdivision in Norton and I put similar things on there because I liked it. As soon as I finished building the last house, somebody puts a camper out there, one put a shed facing the driveway, just things like that, which make the neighborhood look yucky, cheap. And that's the things that are gonna happen. And if it's not enforced, nothing is ever gonna change. People will do what they wanna do.
Okay, so I got permission to move forward, so I'll start associating, hearing with people and getting their feedback. Correspondence, I did not receive any. Public input, we've already had. Approval of the minutes, I did share the minutes for October 24th. If everybody had a chance to read them, I'd entertain a motion to accept them. You want to make that motion?
I make a
Make
motion.
Patty, a second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Both. Set the next meeting date. Do people want to meet in December?
No.
Yeah,
Gonna fall right at
okay.
the turn of the.
I don't know that there's anything pressing that requires us to meet in December, so skip it and go to our regular scheduled January meeting, which would be the fourth Monday of January,
That'll be the 23rd.
the fourth Monday of January. Yeah, good check. It sounds right.
Mhm.
Fine by me.
Okay,
23rd, 23rd.
all right. So I'll entertain a motion that our next meeting be
voted not to have
fourth
this meeting.
Monday of January, which is currently January 23rd at 6 p.m. Keep it at 6. All right. January 23rd, Monday, January 23rd, 6 p.m. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to have the next meeting on the 23rd of January.
Second,
I second.
all in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Is that a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. It went long, but our last two meetings were super short, so this.
Yeah.
Yep. Happy holidays. If
Yeah,
I don't see you guys before Christmas, happy holidays to everybody.
thank you.
You folks.
Same to you and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.